Got it.
Got what?
No, yeah, like it's good. I'm down. Oh, it's like, oh, great.
Gotcha. We're back, everyone. Hello,
It's
dearies.
huge.
It's episode. Welcome to Undersampled Radio, episode 75, I believe. That's not in the show notes, and I'm going to put it there now. Matt was just having a conversation with himself about what he was going to talk about this episode. So take it away.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and we're sort of heads down, planning, trying to get through that. It's crazy how this July, August is just like dead air. It's so hard to even have a conversation with people about doing things in
Every year,
July and August.
this seasonal thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The thing is, like, I've done, I mean, the office carries on as normal in general. Sure, people go away on holiday and stuff, but I mean, it's sort of business as usual, apart from the, whatever, 2 weeks or something that most people duck out for a while. And anyway, so we are getting a little bit of traction now, talking to people about training during the summer. I think that is potentially a good thing to do during the summer because it's hard to find time for training during the busy periods. So maybe that's the
busy exploration periods.
Yeah, maybe that's the new angle. So yeah, we're just so it's kind of weird because it's, what is it, April, and we're now planning like basically through the autumn and into 2019, which feels so wrong, but that's where we are.
Yeah. How's the training going? You doing a bunch?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of really interesting chances to help people, mostly with grassroots beginner, get people on the onto the bottom of the learning curve, basically with Python and machine learning. I mean, people want to get into the analytics and awesome, cool visualizations and models, but yeah.
Is this inside companies or are these like wider courses than that?
It's mostly inside companies. I think actually that's all we've got now. Oh, we are doing something in the UK actually, which will be an open course, but we're being engaged to put that on for other people, kind of thing, for the public.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I mean, I didn't really regard training as a core part of our business until a lot of people started asking about it. It's, I think you've done a bit of training recently, right?
I have a training course coming up next week. That should definitely be in the show notes. It's on Friday. I'm just going to pull up my calendar here. Friday, April 27th, hands-on introduction to PyTorch for machine learning, hosted at the AT&T Executive Education and Conference Center in Austin, Texas. Expiro in conjunction with Global Data Geeks. We're
that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's a public class. Anyone can come.
Anyone can pay to come.
Actually, they can pay. They don't actually have to show up, I guess. That's optional. That's cool. So PyTorch in a day. So how do you...
Oh, no, in half a day. It's only 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you describe the sort of prerequisites for that?
So the prerequisites are you have to know at least a programming language.
Okay.
Check. You have to have at least played with Python a couple times. Check. And you will get more out of the course if you have built neural networks before, but that is not a prerequisite.
Okay, cool.
So let me give you we just built an application domain for this course. So it wasn't just like straight intro to PyTorch. Can you hear that? There's some child screaming in the hallway. Is this, No,
No, I can't hear that.
Okay, I'll just keep talking and talk over it. So anyway, there's an angle on this course, which is customer bucketing. So we wanted to at least do something that was going to be fun. This is more like a professional intro to, hey, how you doing? You have half a Friday, come down, and this is what deep learning is, and this is what a neural network is, and this is what PyTorch is. But more than that, we wanted to say, here is an actual application space, customer bucketing for potentially a SaaS company or for a online retailer, something like that. And we can, we'll show people how to predict which buckets new customers fit into based on certain characteristics. So incoming characteristics include demographics. There's some demographic information, and there are product interests. So for instance, if you had some information about a newly onboarded customer, what did they order in their first purchase? You could fit them into a bucket, and then as you move through time, you could update that bucket for each one of your customers. Now, correspondingly, we also have information on product buckets. So this is just a fun thing, a data set we'll send you home with. So you can also bucket products if you want. And then, so I've gone in reverse chronological order here, because I guess that's what we're going to finish with. What we're going to start with is building, how to build variables and vectors and constructs in PyTorch. Then we're going to move into one of my favorite things that is not often covered in the literature or in a lot of courses I've seen, which is just function approximation with neural networks.
Oh,
then we do the customer bucketing thing. Mm-hmm. Then we do cross-validation. That's that. 4 hours. In, out, data, code, take it all home.
That's pretty cool. So is PyTorch your sort of favorite playground at the moment?
Ooh, okay. I just had this conversation at 2:30 today with another data scientist. And I am super excited about TensorFlow eager execution mode.
Eager execution.
You know about this?
No, what's the eager execution?
Oh, yes. Okay. Do you know PyTorch? Do you know?
I know about reluctant execution. That's how all of my software runs.
Do you play with? I'm sure you've played with TensorFlow. You guys build things in TensorFlow. Have you built stuff in PyTorch?
I've built stuff in Torch. I haven't used PyTorch.
Same thing. Right. Okay. So when you build in Torch, you have a dynamic. You're basically building a dynamic computation graph. You build in TensorFlow, you're building a static computation graph. Mm-hmm. So when you're finished building in TensorFlow, you have a thing which looks like a module, and you can just pull that out of your project, and you can basically insert it anywhere for productionizing that model. You can't do that with a PyTorch model as easily because you don't have that static framework, right? Right. But the benefit of the dynamic computation graph is that you get to debug in real time. So like you press, this is for the people who haven't played with Torch, PyTorch, it runs just like interpreted code you'd expect interpreted code to. So you just press go in a set of code, in a code block, and it goes. That's not how it works in PyTorch, in TensorFlow. You got to define a graph, then you have to propagate information, so-called tensors, through that graph. So it's awesome working in PyTorch. Very simple and very fast to iterate on models. So really good for experimentation. A little bit harder to productionize. And then the converse is true for TensorFlow. However, TensorFlow eager execution mode, which was just released in the core package in version 18, is it was 18 that just came out, or 17? 18, I think. Whatever the newest version is.
Okay.
Is basically like real-time execution for TensorFlow. So you can just say, just like define a little code block, write a little code block and run it, and it just runs right there. So what ends up happening is that you build, like if you're iterating through model building or something, you build this model as you go, just like you would like to do in a Torch setting or something like that, like Keras. And then when you're finished, you also already have a graph built, which you can then export to TensorFlow normal execution mode and like deploy it on smartphones or whatever. So
that's pretty cool.
Stinking awesome. And I have a feeling that the TensorFlow eager execution mode thing is going to displace a lot of market share from PyTorch, because it's supported by this big heavy organization and there's lots of updates and it's more stable and blah blah blah. So pretty excited.
Yeah, what is the sort of I haven't really been paying attention to the status of the whole Torch project. I like, is PyTorch part of the core Torch project per se, or no. Is it oh okay, so it's like a bolted on thing?
No, well, it's separate,
but it's someone else's library. Yeah. So in other words, the Torch developers, maintainers have no obligations to PyTorch to sort of keep right. So, but I think I saw somebody, was it you or maybe Lucas, saying that PyTorch had Torch has a bit of a change coming with not having to define variables in the slightly clunky way that you have to right now. Is that an imminent thing?
Yeah, I think that Ethan and Lucas were having a conversation. I don't know. That's the first, when they had that conversation, that was the first I heard of it.
Okay.
I can't see that. Awesome.
Yeah, anything that smooths that path is cool, but it doesn't sound like it's enough to, like, clearly TensorFlow isn't staying still either. So
yeah, I mean, I will say that dealing with variables and to NumPy and it's dot NumPy, and then it feels very non-Pythonic. It feels statically typed, and it's kind of drives me nuts. Oh, hi, Maverick. My puppy wanted to come say hello. You want to get on the show? You're making a lot of noise over there. You're making a lot of noise. So, yeah, very excited to see variables.
Cool. Well, that'll be. I'm looking forward to hearing how the course goes and how people, respond to the challenge of learning about neural nets and a what would you call it, idiomatic corner of Python in an afternoon or a morning or whatever you're doing.
9 o'clock a.m. till 1 p.m.
That's probably best.
So there's two of us teaching it. It's going to be one of my team members, Ryan Brady, and myself. Ryan is super smart machine learning data science guy who also happens to be an amazing HPC developer and like spent many years like writing super fast C++ code on GPUs, like big distributed private clusters. So I say that only to say that he actually wrote most of the material, and we're going to work together, and he's going to do, my hope is anyway, that it's going to be like a big Ask Me Anything session. So like I'm going to go in there with a whiteboard and stand up there and talk about how the math works while he's going through the code, and we're going to go back and forth. Nice. So I'm hoping the material that we've designed is very short. I mean, if we were going through it, like if you were just going through it as like a code review, it would take you minutes. So I'm really hoping we can just like blow out each section into really heavy question and answer sessions.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, good luck with that. That sounds like fun. Wait, that's like tomorrow? No, it's next week.
Next week.
Yeah. Okay. Take lots of pictures. That's the thing that we always forget to do in courses. Just take some pictures. If you take them from behind people, then you don't have too much to worry about with, like, people's faces and stuff that are being identifiable in the photos. But it's always nice to have these things to use to show other people what kind of stuff you can do.
Yeah, well, that's true. We are built as a machine learning course. Who knows what kind of facial recognition the students will be able to build after it. I'm just sending a note now. That's a good idea that I hadn't considered. Many pictures. I'm on it.
Yeah, it's good when there's two of you. You can actually get the time to do that. Awesome. Yeah. So like, I hope you enjoy that experience, because we really enjoy teaching. It's great meeting people. the challenge with bigger groups, and of course, bigger groups are great because they're more cost effective for people, but it is a challenge to get through the material at a decent pace. Now, and slowing down is not necessarily a bad thing because there's more soak time and you don't drop anybody that way.
Sure.
So, but I feel like we're still trying to figure out what the best I mean, the last time we went and taught, people are like, this is like a semester's worth of material. And we're trying to blow through it in, 4 or 5 days or whatever. And it does feel a bit like that. Coding's hard, man, because everything's like codependent.
Yep.
The
learning curve is and
it sort of just has to be. I feel like saying to people, you're embarking on like a 5-10 year journey here, which is a horrible thing to hear, right? When you start learning something.
Yes, it is.
The good news is we can make a cool little plot in 3 lines of code. The bad news is doing all the things that you want to do aren't like that. Anyway, it's okay.
It's true.
It's that's the joy of learning new skills.
So usually we do these Undersampled radio episodes every week, and so I just kind of, the things that come off the top of my head are the things that have happened in the past week. But as we've been talking here, I've been trying to write notes about things that I want to mention on the show, because it's been like 3 weeks since we've had an episode, and lots has gone down, man. Lots has gone down. You know what happened recently? Last week in Austin? Anaconda Con.
Right.
It was pretty awesome.
Was it?
Yeah.
So describe Anaconda Con.
Very technical. Attendees were, if not data scientists, they were closely related to data scientists. There were a lot of sort of like DevOps people enabling production of machine learning models. There were a lot of folks who are like cloud managers integrating with the data teams, data engineers, data analysts. So the event was, again, highly technical, and I just had the best time meeting folks there, because you could just walk up to anyone in the room and just chit chat about your craziest ideas.
Yeah. Cool.
So cool.
What it wasn't then was just about the like Anaconda, Conda packaging, stuff like that. It's much more applied than that, it sounds like.
Yeah, so there were 3 tracks going on the whole time. It's a little tiny conference. It was like 2.5 days. And I'm going to make a very, very poorly formed guess that there were 1,000, 2,000, I don't know, 1,500 attendees. I'm literally just guessing based on what the room looked like.
Okay, that's a much bigger number than I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say 150.
No, it's way more than that.
Yeah.
But
where
anyways,
was it then?
It was in they had 3 ballrooms in a big hotel downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 tracks going on: open source track, something real world data science track, and Anaconda track. So one of the tracks was about applying Anaconda solutions to your problems. But the other 2 tracks were like, this is problems that we're working on at our company. This is how we solve them, or we haven't solved them yet. Help, which is cool. And then the sort of open source data science track was a bit of that, but a bit more like, hey, look at these new cool tools that are out. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So while you adjust your focus slightly, I'm just going to ask if you got any. I'm curious about the company that used to be Continuum Analytics and is now called Anaconda. like, are they moving towards a more sort of product oriented? I know they had like Wakiri, which was like a cloud implementation, sort of hosted notebooks and so on. I imagine or guess that they've got some kind of corporate offering of Anaconda that's like supported and blah blah blah. Are there other products or products for the masses, as it were, that they're marketing these days, or what's their sort of business plan?
They sell Anaconda Enterprise Edition.
That's it. That's the
Yep.
the offering. Okay.
So it's a combination of. So I mean, probably half the people listening to this show already are using Anaconda Open Distro. So it's awesome, obviously. And the Enterprise Edition is basically enables data science teams to work with data engineering teams, to work with DevOps teams, to work with software engineering teams. It allows collaboration. So there's like hosted notebooks and projects that work inside of the organization with permissions and allotments and stuff. And then it's deployed on your internal systems, obviously. So you can be in a setting where you're behind a firewall, which is pretty cool. So like if, for instance, like if you work at I don't know, power plant or something, and you have a totally air gapped corporate network, you can still do things like conda install PyTorch, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. We should probably like try and track down someone from Anaconda. Like, I'd love to hear more about what the Enterprise Edition has in it. It sounds like it's got stuff in it that isn't available without paying for Anaconda. But our experience of going into these organizations and trying to do a training course, right, where you're like in general, we're setting up people to do Python programming on machines that haven't been used for that sort of stuff before. It's almost always Windows. There's all sorts of, like, it's highly heterogeneous. Even shops that are pretty standardized have a couple of machines that are either possessed or otherwise uncooperative. There's proxies, there's firewalls, there's blacklisted websites. Like, there's some of those things are sort of adaptive. So it's like the first 3 people can download this GitHub repository, and then everybody else is blocked. So I assume that that's the environment that Anaconda Enterprise is designed to sort of homogenize or simplify. So I'd love to be able to like recommend a path for people to kind of, because it's one thing saying, yeah, let's get all these people trained up on scientific Python, but it's another thing to then support those people with the tools that they need to get stuff done and not have it be a horrendously frustrating experience, right?
Well, it turns out that I have made friends with a guy, Michael Grant here, and Dr. Michael Grant here in Austin, who is an absolute genius and also happens to work for Anaconda. So we had a guest on the show. Wow, can you believe it was years ago now? Tim Hopper.
Yeah. Tim.
So this is a good friend of Tim's. So I'll ask him to come on. That would be fun.
Yeah, great. We should get Tim back.
Yeah. He said he'll be at SciPy. Are you coming down for SciPy?
I don't know. Jury's out. We've got a lot of travel in May and June.
I've heard about this.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But it's tempting. Do like Austin.
So did we mention the paper that was submitted in the middle of the night on the show yet? To SciPy?
No, I don't think we've heard that story either.
Okay. So Matt was down in Austin a while back, and we turns out that the night we went out to dinner and a couple of bottles of wine was the night that the deadline for SciPy submissions for papers. So we were egging on through text messages Diego to submit a SciPy paper by, like, he had like 48 minutes left or something. And so I woke up the next morning to an email that said, "You are the co-presenter on the paper submitted by Diego Castaneda." So
that was funny.
Awesome, nerdy practical joke. That paper and my other paper were both rejected from SciPy.
Pa.
However, what was really cool is that SciPy uses a double open peer review process. So have you seen this yet?
So you were able to retaliate against all the people who rejected your papers?
Retaliate? I'm able to thank for their suggestions.
Yeah, no, I was involved in the SciPy reviewing for a few years. I always found it fairly painful, but it sounds like the process may have improved. Put it this way, there were spreadsheets. There were spreadsheets doing things that I've never seen spreadsheets do before, and I don't mean that in a good way.
Okay. That's wonderful.
I'm like, this is SciPy. Why am I reviewing abstracts in Excel?
Well, I didn't get a look behind that curtain, but I did get awesome feedback. And it seems like the level of papers that were submitted this year must have been amazing, because
cool.
The reviews that I got on my paper submitted solo were like pretty graded high on the scale. So I'm hoping that it was rejected because all the papers that are submitted are like off the stinking charts. So yeah, I'm very excited to go and hear all the cool stuff people are doing.
Yeah, be prepared to not sleep for several nights afterwards.
Yeah. I'm ready, man. There's a note on the show notes here that I'm not sure I'm prepared to talk about yet. But I'm going to talk about it anyway. I'm going to introduce it, and then maybe by next show I'll be ready to talk about it. Yeah. Mixture density networks. You ever played with mixture density modeling?
No.
Gaussian mixture models. Come on, you've done Gaussian mixture modeling. Come on, have you not?
Maybe no. Unless it goes by some other name.
Okay. Well.
Well, you know, sort of we like rename things all the time, don't we? Co-creating, blah blah.
We do. Probability density function, like a Gaussian distribution. The models that you build are mixtures of those PDFs, and that's cool. They work really well for certain applications. But now people are building, and this is not a new idea, but it's new to me. People are building mixture density networks. So these networks are now learning to optimize the hyperparameters of the faceted PDFs on the output side. Okay. And it is awesome. So imagine a world in which you have a neural network, the output of which is just like a linear layer, and segments of that linear layer's output correspond to the hyperparameters of many, specified by you, different model PDFs, probability density functions. It's a sort of head-spinningly, mathematically weird situation that I have not fully figured out yet. But I will say it's pretty cool to tick around with these things. The immediate result of playing with these types of models is that you can, much like mixture modeling, like Gaussian mixture modeling, you can output results which are multi-valued for a single input. So, for instance, like, you know, we talked about function approximation earlier. You can regress a function with a neural network, and if you transpose that function, potentially you come up with a non-functional mapping, right? Because there's multiple values for output values for one input. And that's something that's, I was going to say impossible to do. I'm not sure that claim holds. I'm going to say it and our listeners are going to correct me because you guys are smarter than I am. So it's impossible to do that with a neural network. But it's very possible to do that using probability density model mixtures. And doing it optimally by tuning those hyperparameters is super stinking cool. Yeah, why do I care? I'm not sure. Why does someone else care? Well, the best paper I read on the subject was a Google team who used the mixture density network to approximate a securities price prediction. So they picked, I don't remember what it was, maybe it was commodities. So say they were predicting the price of the euro. And within your intrazonal bands, you have these small changes. Those are easy to approximate. And then the problem is that when you jump to a new price regime, if some big shift happens in the market or the news or something, those dramatic shifts are really hard to model. And this team at Google had demonstrate success in this paper modeling those changes. So
that's cool. So the idea is that these things should be good at modeling sort of I was going to say natural systems, but I guess I mean sort of stochastic systems.
Yep.
Or potentially even systems that may even have a sort of chaotic behavior.
Yep.
So that should be really interesting to earth scientists, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. No, I like the idea of
another one.
I
thought of another idea. Sorry, I wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Networks learning or models learning to parameterize other models so that models are actually just parameterizing, say, physical models or
exactly. Yeah.
That's a really interesting development. But as you say, it starts to get really hard to think about.
Yeah. That's, I mean, when I was reading this, not the paper, the nice, amazingly nice blog post that I'll post in the show notes, description of mixture density networks. I kept thinking about multiple systems of linear equations or systems of nonlinear equations, more importantly, and using the outputs from that network as the coefficients in those set of equations. Isn't that cool? I again, I'm just starting to think about this, so I don't know what I'm actually talking about yet. But it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think there's some fun visualization challenges in there as well in that problem for watching these networks learn. And I don't know, I suppose just for interest's sake, trying to figure out how they're learning and what they're doing. But I mean, yeah, I hope that we see some people tackling stuff like that. The Viz hackathon we're doing in June. But yeah, we'll see if people go there.
Okay. I wish I could be there, man. It's going to be awesome. I've been talking about my bullet points all day. I don't want to interrupt you, but I have 10 more things to talk about.
Really? You said you had 2 at the beginning.
Oh yeah, the list is long now.
That's cool. Well, since I brought it in, I'll show you one of the things I've been playing with. I quite like these little sort of toys and whatnot.
Is it an Arduino?
It is actually a sort of an Arduino. It's an Microsoft Azure IoT dev kit.
Ooh.
Made by MX Chip. Yeah, it's a pretty neat little board. It's got a few breakouts along the bottom that you can see. There's a little I don't know, I guess it's an LED screen. It's fairly high resolution, so you can put text and things on it. Blows me away, some of these bits of hardware. But I mean, these little tiny little black chips at the bottom there. I don't know if you can even see them.
Yep.
That's there's a security chip, which I think carries some kind of hardware certificate. so that you can secure the board. The second one is an accelerometer and gyroscope. The third one is a magnetometer. Then there's a pressure sensor, and the last one is a humidity and temperature sensor.
That's all the stuff that's all the guts that's in your cell phone.
Yeah, right. But it just blows me away how tiny they are. There's a little user controllable LED. There's a microphone, the headphones jack. Yeah, so the idea is that you just plug this in by with a USB, and then you can upload stuff to it just like you do to an Arduino. It's basically an Arduino, but then Microsoft have put a bunch of things in place, I guess, to make it easier to stream it to their IoT solutions on Azure, so that you can stream the data there, capture it, do some like online learning, that kind of thing. And it's pretty easy to get it up and going. Unless you're on a Mac, in which case it's a little bit trickier, not impossible to do on Mac and Linux. But the thing's only $37 or something like that, $35. So it's quite a nice little package.
You gonna build a cell phone?
I suppose you could.
You could. Does it have a speaker?
Well, it's got headphones, yeah, but obviously it doesn't have radio. Well, it's got Wi-Fi, so yeah, you could do something with the Wi-Fi.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's kind of cute. But so we've been playing with it to try and get some little exercises and tutorials going for the code show thing that we're doing at EAGE. And I'm hoping that we can buy enough of them that we can give some of them away as like awards to people who achieve making a pocket cell phone, $35 cell phone in a cigarette carton, or whatever the modern equivalent of Altoid tin. Whatever.
I was very impressed to meet someone today who showed up with a dumb phone, with a flip phone.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. I haven't seen one in a long while.
Yeah, Brendan's got a absolutely tiddly little Android phone that's pretty cute.
I've seen that little tiny thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got like 4 icons on the home screen kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know, retro tech. The coolest cell phone I saw, and I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it had like a, what do you call it, e-paper screen, so it's super low power, and looked really awesome and kind of sharp.
Yeah. Except that it took 30 seconds to update the screen every time you.
Maybe I don't know, it didn't do very much. Yeah, because I'm a bit disillusioned with my smartphone and smartphones in general. The one thing that's keeping me going is AR. Which I'm still like flailing around trying to figure out how to play effectively with that. We've been toying around with Sumerian, which is an Amazon AWS solution. Turns out my phone's not compatible with AR Core, the Android AR equivalent of AR Kit on iOS. So anyway, I need to buy a Pixel 2 basically.
Yeah. Check out my phone. We're gonna do this. Mine's all shattered and pieces are falling out. Which reminds me, why don't I buy you a Pixel 2? When Matt was here, I slapped his phone out of his hand and it shattered on the ground. And
I finally got it repaired.
Oh.
When I was in Houston a few weeks ago.
You've just been cutting your face up with it for months?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how long I lived with it. It was pretty bad. People would like double take every time I got it out of my pocket.
And you remembered me every time. Oh, that's so sweet.
Oh, Graham. But then the new screen is, unfortunately, I dropped this on the floor the other day. You see, the thing is so heavy and it's so slippery.
Yeah.
It's like holding a piece of like, I don't know, super slippery stuff. And it's got so much momentum. Like when it hits the ground, it really hits the ground with a thud. Anyway, so stupid thing.
I wanted to ask you if you've tried hydrogen.
A man cannot live upon hydrogen alone.
There's a. Do you know
No,
what
we
I'm
did
talking
some crazy things in university, but I never tried that.
about? I see. Hydrogen is a plugin for the Atom text editor.
Okay.
Tried
I
it?
feel like
No.
I don't use Atom.
Neither did I until now. I always use Atom because
Okay.
Hydrogen is so awesome. So it's basically notebook functionality for your text editor. So
What?
you can execute code inline, regular code. Like you write code in a text editor, it runs like regular code. You don't change anything, and you can just highlight parts of it and press Shift Enter, and it runs in the stinking text editor. So, like for example, like Matplotlib, it'll just whoop, a plot just comes
Yeah.
out. It
I'm
is
looking at the page now, and atom.io. That looks amazing. And I was going to say, wow, that sounds like the Brett Victor thing, and it's sure enough, it's inspired by Brett Victor. Have you've seen Brett Victor's amazing JavaScript dream from like probably 4 years ago now, more.
not. I'm just looking
Oh,
up now.
yeah, it's really cool. It was from I can't remember the name of the conference, but a computer science conference in Montreal, probably it could even have been like 2012, like on interactive JavaScript or interactive code in general. He's a very thoughtful guy. I think he's called Worrydream, worrydream.com,
Yeah.
Worrydream on Twitter.
Cool.
And yeah, so that's really exciting because, you know, he sort of laments how here we are after 40 years or 50 years or whatever of computer coding being a reasonably mainstream thing, and we're still hacking away in text editors. I'm going to check that out. A lot of people really like what's it called? The Microsoft Visual Studio Code.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried that?
Yep, I played with it, but I haven't played with it for I don't know, a year, couple of years. So
I think it has some nice like GitHub integrations so that you can sort of see when bits of code were last changed, and
that's cool.
Yeah, there's some nice little bits like that. I'm in Sublime.
Try Hydrogen. You're going to love it.
Yeah, okay. I'll give it a go.
I'm not even using notebooks anymore.
That's not serious.
Nah, well, it's not totally true, but it is almost true. Like the only so there's no plug, like it doesn't work with interactive visuals like Bokeh or something like that. But if I'm not doing any of that stuff, I'm not using notebooks anymore. It's that good.
Wow, that's really cool. Can you write Markdown in it?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
Because then it actually just is.
It's got language kernel plugins for each thing. So actually, probably not. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to do it while we're talking.
Markdown's one of those things that I just think Markdown's fantastic. Yes. And it's hard to talk to somebody who like is into, you know, Word and stuff about how awesome Markdown is. Do you know what I mean? Like if you've never experienced LaTeX, say, or I don't know, just pure content driven markup and layout and so on, it's really hard for people to appreciate why working in a text editor would be better than a GUI. But
no kernel for grammar GitHub Markdown found.
Oh, okay, that's weird. So it's trying to like execute it then, but yeah. I wonder if you could just like put Markdown in comments and then have it formatted. But then it's getting out of control. That now you've like, what have you even written at the end of that?
Ruined the process.
Okay, pretty cool. I'll check it out.
Check it out. Works for Python, works for JavaScript, works for some other stuff. So it's gonna be revolutionary. Okay, next bullet point. Have you ever used? So we're just moving right along here. Have you
the tool shed? This is like
Yes.
Graham's tool shed.
Well, I was at a conference last week, so I've just started playing with
Okay.
new tools. I started hearing about things people are doing and seeing stuff that is really cool, like, for instance, using Data Shader. Have you played with Data Shader yet?
Okay, yeah, I have.
Ooh, what are you doing with
Yeah,
it?
nothing, but I've played with it. And I think because that came out, I want to say it was at a SciPy, but yeah, so I don't know. I haven't checked in with it in probably a year, but what's that? What's Data Shader up to these days? To getting more awesome?
So yes, they are into that. I just used Data Shader the other day to plot 1 billion points in indeed a notebook, and that's pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
my idea was that I wanted to plot large graphs. You know, we were doing all this work with graph. The company is still doing a lot with graphs, and I wanted to plot 1 billion nodes or whatever, 10 million nodes and a bunch more edges. Something. They promise that you can do it, and I haven't actually gone through the exercise of doing it yet. But I saw a demo, and they're plotting really
Okay.
large graphs, so that's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was for more for sort of rastery stuff, but it's for vectory stuff as well, is it?
No, it does. It rasterizes whatever you feed it, so you can make it look interactive if you continue to cycle new shaded
Okay,
objects onto the whatever you're using, like the browser or notebook or whatever.
I see.
So that's what I was doing when I did my little project, and it's great.
So I seem to remember too that it was really integrated or dependent on bokeh, right?
You can use Bokeh. You also can use Matplotlib.
Oh, okay, that's cool because I don't really like bokeh. I don't know, and I can't really articulate why. I've just never got it. But as you know,
Seriously?
I'm a bit of a luddite when it comes to stuff like that. I only
I like. Well, I like it just because it's easy if you want to do an interactive plot on the in your face on something like a notebook or whatever. It does not do the same type of quality like publication quality plots that Matplotlib or something does. What do you use for interactive stuffs, visualizer stuff?
well, if we really mean it, then we do it in the browser with JavaScript.
Sure,
Um, and like
same,
D3.
but it's
But I
a
mean, I'd love something that I could wield more easily on a day to day. So I've got on my to-do list, I need to check out Vega, which looks pretty cool. Um, and the other thing is PyViz. Those are the two things that I have to look at before Copenhagen.
well, PyVis is an assemblage of pieces, right? So I think
Right.
okay, so I don't totally get that ecosystem. There's
Me
another
neither.
one in there that
Yeah, it's like bokeh, hollow views,
yeah.
geo
What's
views.
HoloViews?
I don't know. It's not bokeh.
Yeah,
It's
I
somebody
don't get
else.
it.
Like it, but I mean,
No, it
it's
fits in
not.
though. I mean, it's not a competitor to. It fits in the pipeline with.
Yeah, right. Who is this making hollow views? The Institute for Adaptive and Neural Computation at University of Edinburgh. Yeah. So it was obviously some domain specific tool that's kind of going mainstream or trying to. So many tools that I mean, this is one of the reasons why I guess the Ludditism is a survival technique, right? And
Yes, it is.
it's a filter. Time is a filter, uh, I guess. I'm trying to think of an example when that paid off for me, but I can't really think of one. Because you just never know what's going to stick or what's going to just fade off into the background.
Yeah.
Everything seems so cool and shiny when it actually comes out.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to stick. It's TensorFlow eager execution mode.
Yeah, right. So Theano, there's a thing that you could have invested a whole ton of effort and time in, right? And now it's gone in like less than
Yeah.
a couple of years. It went from being the uh, sort of deep learning network for or a framework for Python. to being shutting down.
What else is coming up? We have to sign off pretty soon. Any other events coming up shortly? Oh, you want to talk about AAPG?
AAPG's coming up. What is it? 18th, 19th, 20th of May. We're doing the hackathon, and then AAPG is right after that, Salt Lake City, Utah. There are several machine learning related sessions, talks. I think there's some kind of forum-y, discussion-y thing happening. There may be some other things I'm not even aware of. And then we're doing this unsession, unconference type discussion afternoon on the Wednesday. And yeah, there's going to be loads of Software Underground folks there, softwareunderground.org. And it's going to be cool. It's going to be really good. The venue for the hackathon looks very cool, by the way.
What's it called?
It's called Church and State. It's an old church, so it's got cathedral ceilings, as it were.
But it's not an old state. The separation holds.
I believe so. Yeah, it's stateless. So that's going to be fun. And then the next big thing for us is EAGE in Copenhagen. And we're talking about we're trying to find a time slot for it, but I think we're going to try and make it happen over the summer in Calgary, a summer school. We're probably not going to call it summer school because Agile Summer School doesn't abbreviate well, but we'll come up with a name for it. And it's going to be like a kind of a chilled out course/workshop thing. That's the vision. Open to.
That is a gross vision.
Gross.
Yes.
As in course, or
yes, or take it however you will.
Wait.
Do you have any more? What's the subject matter?
Say. I don't know. I mean, it's tempting.
Someone tell him.
Yeah, someone tell us what the subject matter should be. I mean, it's like a lot of our events. If someone rocks up and wants to do whatever they want to do, that's great. Visualization, web applications, machine learning. Yeah, like just start from the beginning and figure out what on earth NumPy is for or something like that. That's cool too. Signal processing. Yeah, it's a bit. I realize that all sounds pretty vague, but we want to do something in Calgary. We haven't done anything in Calgary for quite a while, and we want to do something over the summer because the summer looks kind of empty otherwise.
I hear you. So before we joined the show today, Matt was talking about his professional headshots they took today. So if you're listening to this show on the radio, you should go check it out on YouTube because Matt is looking, and I quote, quite smart today. So yes. The question is, Matt, how many ties do you own?
I used to really like ties. I bet I have 50.
50? Any bow ties?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. See you next week on Undersampled Radio. Bye.